Hello and welcome to the Aging Answers podcast. My name is Rob Faubion. I am the Chief Community Engagement Officer for Age of Central Texas. We are a regional nonprofit organization that helps older adults and family caregivers to thrive with programs throughout the Central Texas area. And we are so excited that you're joining us today for our monthly Aging Answers podcast. We've created this podcast to bring experts in the fields of aging and caregiving to talk to you about topics that can help you in your journey so that you can age and caregive successfully. We're also very thankful to HEB for sponsoring our podcast, because no grocery store does more for family caregivers and older adults in Central Texas than my HEB.
You know HEB for quality fresh food at low prices to help you eat well. Now, HEB has primary care physicians and dietitians on staff to help you get and stay well. And because HEB believes affordable care should be accessible to all Texans, monthly memberships and cash payment options are available. Let HEB's team of highly reputable and experienced care providers help you on your health journey. Virtual and in-office visits are available. Visit heb.com/wellness to learn more today.
Joining us today is Natalie Alcorta, who is the Program Director for the Age of Central Texas Resource and Information Center. And today we are going to talk about support groups. As a fellow caregiver, I know how important it is to be able to access resources in the community to help me in my caregiving journey as I take care of my parents. And support groups are just another one of those great resources that we have here in the community to help us out in that caregiving journey. So Natalie, so glad that you're here today to talk with us.
Thanks for having me. And I'm excited to talk about support groups. And I also want to mention, I think one of the most beautiful things about our organization and the work that we do is that there are so many of us family caregivers who work on staff and who can directly relate to the work. I too am a caregiver and utilize support groups, personally as well. So I'm happy to be here. Thanks.
And I will second that. So many of us that are a part of Age of Central Texas are family caregivers or have been family caregivers. So we're walking the walk as well. And so it's wonderful to have these resources and be able to share them with the community. So let's start with the basics. Let's talk about what is a support group and how do they work?
Yeah. So a support group is a group of people coming together for commonality. You share something with the particular group you're meeting with. And specifically for our organization, we offer caregiver support groups or care partner, however you identify. This is for the unpaid, untrained, family, friend, neighbor, care partner, caregiver, to join a group, to talk about the successes and also the really challenging parts of caregiving and this journey that is definitely challenging and also very rewarding.
Yeah, I will second that. It is very challenging to be a caregiver, and having the opportunity to discuss that with other caregivers in a safe and inviting environment is so important.
Absolutely. I know personally, and I know that other caregivers that I work directly with in the support groups that I facilitate have often talked about. It's hard to find people who are already in your lives who can directly relate to the experiences that you particularly are experiencing as a caregiver. You might have some really wonderful, supportive people in your lives, but they might not be a caregiver and they might not fully understand what your experience is right now related to caregiving. So sometimes it might feel often hard to go to those people who are great and in their own ways and provide support in, other ways. But when it comes specifically to caregiving, sometimes it's a little bit harder to go to them for that kind of support. So joining a support group gives you the opportunity to connect with other people who are in a similar situation. I often like to tell people who are exploring our support groups to do that, to explore it. If this is the first time that you've ever joined, you don't have to share. You can get so much out of and support out of just observing and hearing other people's stories. That's a really wonderful way to tiptoe into joining a support group if you've never done that before. And also try different groups that are related around to the same topic, because different people in different groups have different energies, and even their particular type of caregiving. You might join a group as an adult child, and you might explore a group that is predominantly spouses caring for their wife, partner, so I also encourage people to, if you're interested in exploring a support group, try it. Join a couple of groups, find the one that works best for you, and also don't feel pressured to share immediately. You share whenever you are most comfortable sharing. And so, yeah, those are a few things that I like to share with people.
Yeah, I think that's important that caregivers understand that a support group is designed to be a very safe environment to discuss very personal things. And when we first start in a support group, we may not feel like sharing everything in our world because we don't know these other people yet.
Right.
And these, caregiving can be a very personal journey.
Mm-hmm.
Each of us have an individual journey, and one size does not fit all. And so knowing that there are multiple support group options that are available, I think is terrific. And as we always note, our journeys change as we caregive.
Mm-hmm.
My personal experience, my father had a brain bleed stroke. And so that changed the caregiving journey, because now we're dealing with more medical issues besides just the normal aging. And so having a support group to talk about those things and how those challenges have changed is very important. And I think for me, I see two wonderful positives out of a support group. One is being able to get that feedback from other caregivers who have gone through similar things in their journeys, and being able to say, have you tried this? Or this worked for me, you might want to try that. Or, when I'm looking for a particular doctor and they say, hey, I go to this one and I really like them. There's so much information that can be shared back and forth there that is so wonderful. But the other great thing I think about support groups is the ability just to get things off your chest.
Mm-hmm. No,
and
absolutely.
And have a sounding board of people who are going, who understand. Because caregiving can be such an isolating journey. Even though we do have friends and family around who are supportive, we're the ones who are carrying the heavy burden in many cases.
Right.
And that can be very isolating. And, we're preaching to the choir here with caregivers that we understand that our lives as caregivers are not the same personally as they were before. We don't get to do all the fun stuff we used to do. We don't get to go out to eat all the time like we wanted. We don't get to get together with friends and go to the concerts and all the other, and the trips that we used to take. And so we feel like, our world closes in on us a little bit. And that can be frustrating, and that can cause anger. And if you bottle it up, that doesn't help anybody. And you lead to caregiver burnout. And having that opportunity on a regular basis to just get that stuff off your chest can be so cathartic and so helpful in this caregiving journey, because then you've released it and it's not eating you up anymore.
Right. I think there's a lot of comfort in knowing once, you've joined a group that is meeting consistently, that, on that day of the month, or, every other 2 weeks, that time is already there. You can join the group, you can share when it's been a really challenging week or month, or you have something exciting to share. You learn something new related to caregiving that you are eager to share with the group. You mentioned earlier the brainstorming and the sharing of resources and information. I love when that happens, which happens pretty much every single meeting, because there's always something new to learn. Specifically, one particular individual might be having a challenging time getting their parent or partner to take a bath, take a shower, take care of their hygiene. It might be hitting a wall with it. Then they come to the group, they bring up this challenge, and you have 3 or 4 people giving different suggestions on what to maybe try, what worked for them, what didn't work for them. So the sharing of knowledge, the sharing of support that can come from the support groups is so special, and just not something that you're going to get anywhere else. You have this group of people who are there because of, they're on a similar journey that you are on. They're on, they're in different stages of the journey. So you have people who can share that knowledge as well, where you might have a new caregiver who's completely new to the role, looking for help, receiving help directly from someone who maybe their person is now living in a long-term care community, and they've gone through such a big chunk of the caregiving journey, and they have so much knowledge, and wisdom to share with this incoming caregiver. So it's just, I think, again, I go back to, it's hard to join sometimes, and share with people that you don't know. But I encourage everyone who, to ask yourself, like, who are my people that I talk to about this? Do I have somebody that I can pick up the phone and call, or do I have a neighbor that I can walk across the street or next door to talk to? And if you're struggling to find who that person is, join a group, because I guarantee you will be able to have, you will find someone, you'll find some support out of it. And that's so important. It's so important to have a place to be able to share. And
yes, most definitely. And, going back to just the basic design of a support group is to create a safe, welcoming, warm environment to be able to share. Because, we're talking about very personal things within our families, and being able to know that you are in a safe space to talk about those things, and what you discuss stays inside that group is a very wonderful thing. And another thing that struck me is that I hadn't thought about with support groups. As caregivers, we talk about creating a routine for our care recipient, and why that's important, especially if our care recipient is living with dementia. By creating a steady routine, it makes it much easier for them, because they know what's going to be happening on a regular basis. It's much easier for us as the caregiver, because we know what's going to happen on a regular basis. Support groups also kind of fall into that as well for us as the caregiver. We know we have this regular thing that we get to do. It gives us more sense of purpose with our caregiving journey, because we have our regular support group that we get to attend, and that we have this community from that are on our side.
Right. No, absolutely. I agree. We mentioned, there's so much to learn when it comes to resources and information, and doctors and all of that comes along with caregiving. You can learn that, if through support groups. But another thing that I loved also to watch happen is the sharing of what are you doing for self-care. Showing up to a support group is a form of self-care. You're taking care of your emotional part of you. You're joining that space and sharing. But also, a lot of the caregivers keep each other accountable on some level of, hey, do this thing for yourself. What are you going to plan to do this coming week? Some people share what kind of items they put in their self-care jars, and give each other other ideas of really small things that you can do for yourself to just make sure that you are taking care of yourself on some level. So there's a lot of challenges, and a lot of that is shared in the support groups, but there is also just this really wonderful and positive conversation that does come out of and is shared when it does relate to caregiving, because again, it is rewarding, at times. So it's nice to at least share some of the wins, while also sharing the really hard times and the challenges. You also mentioned isolation, and that is definitely, I love that you said that, because caregiving can be so isolating, especially as it progresses, and gets harder and harder depending on who you're caring for. So that is so important, the connection with other people, to avoid a very already isolating journey. There are ways to find the support, and the support groups that Age of Central Texas offers are free. Most support groups are, and we have several different ones. I particularly or specifically facilitate an adult child caregiver support group. So this is an adult child who is caring for a parent. We meet virtually. I also meet in person with caregivers it's a non-disease specific caregiving group. We meet in Buda at the Onion Creek Senior Center. That one's in person. The rest of our groups currently meet virtually, which has been really wonderful, because sometimes it's just really hard to leave your person, especially if you're there with them 24/7 and you can't leave them. It's nice to plug in your earphones, get on the computer, and see other people and talk and share that way. Receive the support virtually. So we have 2 other non-disease specific virtual support groups that we offer. And then we have one that is specifically for dementia caregivers that meets weekly on Friday mornings. And that is also virtual. So that we have several different options. And I know, Rob, you'll share the link in the support group list that we offer. So Age offers, our groups, but I also encourage people to look for a support group that's specific to, let's say, the type of dementia that your person is living with. There are groups in our area that are maybe specific to Lewy body or specific to frontal temporal. So looking for this specific search for the specific type of dementia that your person's living with, or if it's a chronic illness, what is that? And if you want help with finding that, you can always reach out to Age of Central Texas, and we can help find you a support group that will hopefully be, a good fit.
Yeah, that's so true. We will share down in the comments below our list of support groups that not only are offered by Age of Central Texas, but are offered throughout the Central Texas area. You can access those PDFs and find a support group that's near you that can be helpful in your particular journey. And I think you really hit the nail on the head when we're talking about why it is so important for caregivers to access a support group, because it is self-care. And we always tell caregivers that you need to take care of yourself. And I know I'm guilty of it myself, saying when, how, I don't have time
Right.
to do this. But setting that time aside on the regular
Yes.
basis that I'm going to do this for me. I'm going to go to my support group. I can do it online virtually. I don't have to leave the house. I can join for an hour a week or once a month, whatever fits my needs,
Yes.
and be able just to visit with other caregivers to get some great advice, to be able to just discuss what's going on in our journey, but to be uplifted. And I think that's one of the most important things that come from being in a support group, is realizing I'm not doing this by myself. I'm not the only one around doing this. I now have a community of friends who are going through the same things. And I have a great sounding board of fellow peers that
Yes.
if I run up against a wall with something, I've got people I can talk to and say, what do you suggest? What did you do? What worked for you? And I think that's some of the most important things that caregivers can do, is to have that trusted group around them that are not only supporting and uplifting them, but providing that expert advice because they have been there themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And once again, wherever you are in your journey, Age of Central Texas is here to assist you. You can always contact us by giving us a call at 512-451-4611, or go to our website. We have a wealth of information, including lists of respite groups, support groups, and other great opportunities that can assist you as a caregiver. Our website is age, of centraltx.org. Natalie, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing all that great information. We so appreciate it. And as we always do, we remind you that there is never, ever any shame in asking for help. All of us need help at some time in our lives, and as caregivers, we need it more often than others. So that's why organizations like Age of Central Texas are here to support you. Thank you for joining us for this Aging Answers podcast. We'll be back again next month with another topic. And you can also, on our YouTube page, find all of our previous podcasts, along with tons of videos from our conferences and our seminars. So until next month, we hope that you have a wonderful day and a great month. Natalie, thank you again for joining us. Thank you at home for watching our podcast, and we hope that you have a great rest of your day.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.